Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about the role of information technology and how it can help in the improvement of Egypt's GDP. And joining us right now in the studio is Engineer Tamer Gohary. Welcome with us and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. And first of all, talking about the importance of the information technology, and just as we were talking right now of air, how far it can help and support when it comes to the GDP.
Well, Egypt have a potential, in information technologies. We have lots of startups. They have been building lots of applications. Some of it have been going global, especially through the mobile devices. So considering that right now the mobile devices and applications and this information technologies is really booming right now, and we can see different countries have been really achieving enhancement or lots of improvements in their GDP. So it is expected that Egypt as well can do the same.
Mr. Tamer, you came to Egypt, you're living in Singapore, and you came to Egypt to take part in the conference Egypt Can. Would you tell us some of the most important topics discussed during that conference, please?
Well, mainly it was a great opportunity to attract the experiences and all doctors from around the world who are been Egyptians. Some of them have been in for more than 20 and 30 years. Lots of them have really brilliant projects that can be implemented. Some of it already have been implemented in different countries. So what we can see is that they have been trying to communicate with Egypt and the officials, and this conference have been a great opportunity for them. They have been covering the renewable energy, solar and wind energy with really magnificent projects. Some have been covering about information technology, making logistics centers, enhancement in logistics that's related to Suez Canal, and also some have been discussing of improving the education system in Egypt. And it is expected that the next year, if this conference will be continued, that to be a main topic is about education.
Sir, during the conference you were talking and actually highlighted the importance of the Suez Canal, the access, all the projects that can take place over there, and how it can be a turning point in Egypt's history. So could you tell us more about this? How do you see it, and how far again can the information technology play a role in this respect?
Yes. What I have been witnessing is that the region, which is North Africa and the Gulf, is missing a hub for an information technology. We can see this happening in India, but in the Middle East we are lacking behind. So Suez Canal have a great potential because actually it is connecting lots of shipping industries, and it is a critical pathway for all the traffic. It contains as well the submarine cables, which is connecting the internet between Asia and Europe as well as Africa. So from that perspective, projects that to be done in Suez Canal will really have a global potential, and we can see how the global trade is really moving on and increasing, especially after empowering the Suez Canal with the second pass. Considering this, and in addition, Suez Canal is close to the desert, where there can be an electronics industry, that's based on silica sands. So fabrication industry is one of the main pillars for the IT, and it's always empower information technology. So I think one of the important things that we need to focus on, how to really develop fast, Suez Canal area in order to give more empowerment to Egypt from economical perspective.
Now, Doctor, how can we benefit from the information technology in the various fields, not only just the Suez Canal?
Well, we can focus on improving our information technology development throughput by encouraging more the startups. I have been witnessing that lots of information technology experts have been moving around the world, and they are Egyptians, and they have been building lots of companies, and some of them have been really empowering the infrastructure of great companies. So considering these facts, we have lots of calibers and experts who have already global certification and great experience. So we need to capitalize on this. In addition to this, we need to encourage youth in making small projects by developing an application that is really give a potential for our improvement in the information technology that in return will be affecting our GDP.
Well, actually, now I can recall one of the speeches delivered by President Sisi, and he was talking about the boom of the IT in Egypt and how far we can take benefit in this, just as you mentioned, talking about the call centers and many other projects. And from here, let me ask about the privileges that we can provide for investors, talking about the mechanism, how to attract foreign investments in Egypt when it comes to the IT or information technology in general. How do you see it so far, and what privileges can we provide?
Well, the privileges is first by trying to facilitate the procedures for them to establish business. And I believe Suez Canal areas, they are considering this, and they have been making the concept of one-stop shop, okay, in order to minimize the logistics that is required. Another thing is that by empowering our infrastructure, okay, our infrastructure that's related to IT, mainly it is the cabling, the fiber cabling, the dark fibers, okay, increasing the bandwidth of the internet, because we can see that the other countries have been working really hard on getting their infrastructure providing a huge bandwidth. This bandwidth is one of the main pillars that will attract the global companies to start working in Egypt and find it appealing. So we can summarize in three things: facilitating the procedures, give some tax benefits for them, okay, give opportunity for them to hire. The third thing is be ready with an infrastructure and bandwidth, especially that we are already have submarine cables that have many exits in different areas in Egypt across the coastal line, starting from Alexandria and moving to Suez Canal. So it's just a matter of that we start focusing on increasing the bandwidth of the internet.
Well, Doctor, what about your experience in Singapore, and how can we benefit from this Singaporean experience in terms of information technology to develop Egypt?
Well, in Singapore, the first thing that they were focused on education. It was really important. So they started by making sure that education is really solid. And then they started on improving the scientific researches, which allowed them to have lots of calibers that they can be working, especially in information technology. Also, as you know, Singapore is an island, okay? So they made sure that at least around 40 to 50% of their coastal line is shipping industry and logistics, and it become really a huge logistics hub for APAC region. This industry have empowered lots of other industries. Then they become a financial hub based on this. I can see that Egypt is really have a good potential, especially due to its geographic location, as well as the calibers. I mean, we have lots of people who have an experiences. It's a matter of putting the mechanism of utilizing them. This mechanism can be facilitating their startups, can be give them opportunity to go for trainings in different countries, because in Singapore, they have been getting around 60 to 70% of the calibers to stay abroad for at least 1 or 2 years, and they get the experience. And then when they come back, they give them facilitations and support in order to build their own startup. And this is how make Singapore become one of the important hubs in Asia Pacific.
Doctor, actually, Mr. Tamer, you were talking also about the importance and what we achieved in Egypt. And you mentioned something about the multinational entities and companies and how they expressed, actually, they were impressed by what Egypt achieved in the field of energy in general. Could you tell us more about this and how do they perceive it so far?
Yes. Well, I have been witnessing the shortage of power that we used to have previously, okay, and it was really impacting lots of industry, especially that information technology is really, we call it an energy hungry, okay, for power. So what had happened is that Egypt, within about a year, okay, have been managed to transform this shortage into a reserve, okay, with around 5 gigawatts. Okay, this is impressive. So if we are talking by scales, you are talking about getting at least 10 gigawatt, if not more, and I believe energy officials can be talking more about it. So this is an achievement. You cannot easily get a pump up of a 10 gigawatt, okay, in a single year that easily. And this have been really perceived in really good among different industrial companies, especially that the German companies that have been working with Egypt on buildings and new facilities have been using this major improvement as their own international campaign. I mean, even me in Singapore, I started to get an advertisement from them stating, this is what we did in Egypt, it's really huge, we can do it across the world. So it had been perceived by different companies and also by different countries. In fact, one of the things that I came to know is that the way we have been driving this improvement, some of other countries have been adopting the same methods and going with the same company to do and to follow the same contracts that have been Egypt done in order to improve its power.
Now, Engineer Mr. Tamer Gohary, would you tell me more about your plan? Because I read that you actually had a plan in countering crises before they occur in terms of information technology.
Well, mainly the plans is that how we make sure that our infrastructure and our IT technology is disaster-proof. In other way, if we are facing an issue related to power or national anything that can happen, how we can make sure we are running 24/7. And this is only achieved by we build a different data centers across the country. So whenever we are having an issue even related to connectivity, it can be failed over to another site, which we call it disaster recovery projects. And now it's become really important, especially that we are using the electronic governments. So we are expecting service to be running 24/7. Other than that, we are start to face an issues because decisions now is being taken based on data. This data needed to be available. So in order to enhance the availability of the data, we need to work on empowering the infrastructure, build a different scale of data centers across the country.
But sir, is this part of your own project that you presented, or you could tell us more about the project that you presented actually?
Yes.
I know you are invited to the conference, but definitely there will be a sort of cooperation just to take benefit of your experience, of course.
Yes. Yes, actually, I came to talk about building a hyperscale data centers, okay, because I have been working in Egypt and most of my experience came from Egypt, then I went to Singapore. So what I have been witnessed the difference between the scale we have and the scale is outside. So the scale we have is considered a small scale, while outside they are having a hyperscale data center. This hyperscale data center allow any company or any government agency, okay, to start immediately building their own information without the need to just buy lots of hardware and invest lots of money for capex, okay, which is capital. So instead of doing that, they can follow the operational mode or OPEX or operational expenses, where they can simply, if they need the resources, they get it immediately. This will enhance our go-to-market. This will enhance how we are developing our system. It will allow us to move into electronic payments and all these technologies really quick. I have been discussing this with some of the officials. I got some invitations. Some of it will be after the show as well, where we put the plan. And I came with a clear image how we can do it based on the experience. But of course, it requires lots of support from different entities to work together, from telecom officials to IT or information technology officials, as well as chairman who is responsible for Suez Canal area, and also the Ministry of Investments as well.
Now, Mr. Tamer, to what extent would platforms like cloud, for instance, which is now very big in terms of saving the data, to what extent is it safe, and to what extent is it beneficial, and how can we make use of it without endangering the security of our data that it's now on the internet and could be hacked?
Yes, this is a good point. Let me tell you that some of the governments outside have been moved a portion of their data with a good percentage to the cloud. And this came based on conditions that they requested. For an example, they requested that those data centers need to be built locally in their countries, okay, in order to make sure that it is secured within the country boundaries. Another regulations have been modified, okay, especially from protections and rights. They also have been requesting penetration tests, which usually you do to make sure that hackers cannot sabotage your infrastructure or access your data. And it have been proven, based on what I have been witnessed, that it have been really solid proof against hacking activities. And in fact, they have been asking for a more secured and higher standards of security, and it have been also provided and availed for them. So security become not a real issue. Physical security as well have been covered, and we have been witnessing this. In fact, it's where I've been working. High standards of securities have been applied. And also, it is a decision that we need to start thinking about and adapt. We already have started a really good approach of making the electronic government. Okay, so it is already available on the internet, but it is within the local boundaries. What I'm expecting is that we need to attract the global cloud companies, okay, to come and build their hyperscale data center in Egypt. In that case, that means we will be having the data center that is in Egypt boundaries, and we also attract lots of investment, because right now the region within either in Egypt or North Africa and the Gulf doesn't have any hub of a hyperscale data center, and Egypt could be the starting point for the next region, which really have a beneficial of getting the cloud coming to Egypt physically, not through internet outside the boundaries.
Right. Engineer Tamer Gohary, engineer and expert in the field of information technology from Singapore. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And still we have more to bring you on our breakfast show. So moving on to a quick break, and we'll be back to resume our breakfast show.